What we're here today is to tell you primarily what you need to know about the FTC safeguard rule, and we are going to answer two seminal questions that you should be aware of. And again, I'll say this several times during this conversation, Tom. If you don't do it with Catalyst and you don't do it with Foresight, it's okay. Just do it with somebody because it's very important that you understand these two questions. Number one, how does this impact your dealership? And number two, what does your dealership need to do about it? Right. And so we've been talking to lots of organizations in the dealership industry, and a lot of folks don't have a good grasp on it. This was introduced just a year ago. But the point is that at least at this time of this conversation, in 107 days, on June 9th, 2023, this is going to go into effect, and it's certainly going to shake some people up. And what we're trying to do is get ahead of it, and we're going to dig in here to what we would call the fundamental top 9 things that you need to know about the FTC safeguard rule. Tom, give us a little background on what it is in general. We can all read, and the fine print says what's displayed on the screen, but tell us a little bit more about what the spirit of this whole program is. You work against regulatory bodies and in alignment with them all the time, helping our mutual customers comply to frameworks, progress to frameworks, all these kinds of things. What is this whole FTC safeguard thing, and why do dealerships need to be aware of it?
Yeah, so back in 1999, Congress passed the Graham-Lyle-Bleachley Act. I probably said that wrong. Those senators' names are tough for me. But basically, it was an act that said if you are a company that does financing for people and you are under the SEC, then you must protect this class of information they called non-public personal information. So fast forward, basically the FTC is now saying, hey, there's all these other organizations that take that same data that don't fall under the SEC. So we're going to regulate that with the safeguards rule to protect that information, because if that information needs to be protected there, it needs to be protected here too.
Got it. So it's really an expansion on legislations and regulations that were introduced almost 2 decades ago, or 2 decades plus. And so what this is happening here is it's trickling down into other industries that also interact with, retain, and communicate with personal information in particular. Tom, I know you're a technology seer in a lot of respects. Where do you think this is going to go next, right? We know check cashing and we know, auto dealerships. Do you want to make a visionary call and talk about the next industry that you see this coming to?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty much the way it's written. If you do financing for someone,
got it,
or if you do anything that has currency involved, so you cash checks for people, anything that would have financial information, this is going to apply to you. It was written very broadly, so it doesn't say it only applies to auto dealers. It gives examples of types of businesses it applies to, but the bottom line is, if you do anything with financing or transferring funds, this is going to fall on you. And the other thing to note is that the FTC is becoming the stick with which the government is enforcing cybersecurity. So it's not just this rule, it's the False Claims Act, which the FTC is now using to go after companies that claim to protect your data, but then they have a breach or they prove not to be negligent and so forth. I think the FTC's role, they actually just opened another office, the Office of Technology at the FTC. That happened this week, actually, and it was funded with lots of money to basically look at technology companies that make false claims and go after them. So, the FTC is the bad boy on the block. Yeah.
It's kind of like, the IRS, right? Hiring tens of thousands of new agents, right? This is all in the spirit to, quote, protect the consumer. But there are some implications that we should all stop and address here today.
For sure.